Hey, my name is Joe Latender. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to install vinyl plank through a doorway that the plank is running parallel to, or the long way. Now, last week I shared the video where you go the short way or perpendicular to the doorway. Both of these are techniques, or both of these have different techniques. So if you haven't seen that other video and you have a situation where the plank is running perpendicular, you might want to check that video out too so that you can see how I would handle that situation. Now, I'm going to share three different methods here where we're coming into a doorway and then going away from a doorway. So we're going to install into and away from it. I'm going to show you that later on in the video. I'm going to share with you a couple different ways to get through those doors, because not all doorways are created equal. There's different methods that you can use because doorways can be really tricky, and so I want to show you all of these ways so that you can get through. And between one of these ways that I'm going to show you, you're going to be able to get through that doorway, so don't worry about it. Now, to set up this first scenario here, I'm installing away from a doorway into a bedroom. Now, I did already install the plank into it, and the reason why I'm not showing that in detail is because that situation the door was not in yet. It was only sheetrock and studs coming into it, and I didn't want to share that with you without you seeing it with the door jamb. So you can kind of see right now what I'm talking about. And now we're going to move into a room, but what's important here to set this up is when we come through a doorway into another room, I like to square that plank up with the room that I'm going into. Because the doorway is less than 3 feet wide, you can adjust that plank a little bit to square it up with the room that you're moving into. And that's where we're going to be at this part of the video. So here, let's watch. So now I'm going to measure off of the back wall, and I'm just going to measure out towards this wall over here, but I want to be a couple feet away from that wall, and I'm just going to use a number. Just an even number is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to go 10 feet. I'm going to make a mark here. I'm going to mark this at 10 feet. Now I'm just going to stick my nail right in the middle of that line. Stick my chalk line over here. If you have somebody to hold it, you don't need to use this method, but I don't have anyone to hold it. I'll stretch my chalk line all the way across, and now I'm going to snap a line. Now I'm going to hook on to this, now that I got my starter going. So what you see me doing here is what I call the bridge method. So I like to start another row, and is all I'm doing is I'm connecting the plank to the long part of the joint. I'm not connecting the butt joints at all. And I'm straddling over those short joints pretty close to an even amount on both sides. Now what this does is it straightens that row out for me, and it also makes it so that if I need to move it at all, that plank will not come apart. It's really a good tip to use, and I recommend that you do that. Now in the doorway here, where I'm connected to the plank that's already been installed, I'm measuring away from that to that line that I snapped in the floor, and that's the measurement I'm going to use to get the rest of the plank straight with that line, so that we know that we're perfectly straight. So if that measurement was 3 feet as an example, then I would measure to get the rest of that plank at 3 feet away from that line. So what this is called is a cheater board. Now this is something that is going to save you a lot of time, and it's also going to be something that you're going to be able to use on all of your marking your wall cuts, all of your doors, and really any cut that you're going to have in your installation. It saves you a ton of time, and your cuts that you mark are going to be perfect every time when you use one of these. Now what you can do though is you can adjust how big of an expansion joint you're going to have. Now what I always do is I cut off this part of the plank. This is called the groove. That's what I cut off to make my cheater board. And you can take a little bit off, or you can take it all off, and that's going to determine how big your expansion joint is. So you can play with that a little bit as you're making your cheater board and starting doing your first few cuts to see how much you want to take off of that. I usually take the entire groove off, and that usually gives me about 1/4 inch to 3/16 of an inch expansion joint, which is perfect for vinyl plank. Oops. 1 1/4 inch. 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 So I think you can see my line, maybe not, but as all I did here is I stuck my cheater board underneath the wall, underneath the jamb, in this way a little from the door jamb, and I just drew my line up, and now I'm drawing it this way. And then I'm just gonna run it along the sheetrock for the rest of the way. And that's how I got my line. And now you can see the joints start to tighten up. It's in right there, still need to go in down there. Okay, that's it. Now I need to get this in. Now she's in nice and flat. Now I'm going to take my next piece, which is going to be a full piece here that I'm going to start with. I'm going to get it in the track. So this is all connected now. Slide it that way until I get to my proper gap. And I'm going to hit it up here where it's more solid to get that in first. And then just start lightly tapping back here. Now, because this is loose and it's not secure, we can have a little struggle here to do this. You can see, now that I got it in, I was just using this knife to hold it while I tapped it. Now we're gonna make this so that that stays nice and secure for us. You can also add these in before you do that tapping, but I'm gonna stick a spacer in here. Now you can see that that's nice and secure. It's not going anywhere. So I want to tell you about that spacer a little bit. That you might not have ever seen that type of spacer before. This is a spacer that actually lays flat on top of the plank. So it's not up at an angle so that when it pushes up against the wall that it falls over. This one sits flat, has a lip on it, and it has an adjustable wheel on it. So it adjusts. And I like this spacer a lot. I'll just show you what I'm talking about here. So when you spin that, it pushes this part forward so it adjusts. So if you have a wavy wall, because the sheetrock's wavy, you can adjust this back and forth, okay, where those stationary spacers don't, or the other ones that you might see just fall over. Even when you tape them to the wall, they're not very good. So this spacer right here is one that I really like. Highly recommend it. They're not too expensive. You can get them in a 4-pack. Typically about 12 of them for most installations is enough, so that would be 3 packs of 4. I'll leave a link below so you can check this out. Now I can just continue on throughout the rest of the room installing the rest of the plank, but now I want to bring you to another scenario where we're going to install some plank through a different type of doorway. Now what I'm going to show you here is what I call the double cheater board method. And so this is when you have a plank that you can't get into place because something's in the way, like a pipe or a door jamb, something like that. So you can pull that plank back 1 row, and then you can just hook on to your cheater board another piece of plank that you haven't modified the locking system on at all. It's just cut a chunk off and you add it to your cheater board, and that gives you a double cheater board, so you can position your plank in a different spot where it's not going to hit like a door jamb, a pipe, or something like that. And you can use this as your cheater board, which I call the double cheater board method. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's watch. So coming into a doorway like this, it's always more difficult than to work away from it. So what we want to do is have a joint somewhere in this doorway to make it easier for us to get through it. So just take a look at where you haven't had a joint in a while, and then that's where I would put my joint. So like right here, I haven't had a joint. So I'm gonna put this right here. Now the other thing I want to share with you is I can't push this as far as I need to go. That still goes back that way another 1/2 inch. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use the double cheater board method, so that we can actually position this plank out here and push it this way to get it to the proper spot. So what I'm going to do now is line that piece up perfectly where it needs to go, and I put it in that 2nd row out. Now I attach a scrap piece, and this is going to be my guide to make sure I get that plank perfectly in place. I just made sure that I lined up the locking system of the scrap piece with the plank underneath. I cut my other piece, And now I put another scrap piece onto my cheater board. I'm getting that ready, and I'm going to use that now to mark. So you can see how slick this is. It really makes it easy when you have a door jamb that's in the way to be able to make those proper cuts. Now I'm just going to slide a plank underneath a little bit to see exactly where I need to cut. I square it up a little bit, and then I'll make a mark where that jamb is going to end. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side. Now what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get this plank started underneath that door jamb you can see on the corner there. And then I hook on a little scrap piece that I cut, I lock it in, and now I'm using what I call a pull bar. Now this is one that you can get. I also have another one that I will share with you later on. But this is really key to be able to get this in place. You can see how I'm really getting some good brute strength here behind this to get this pounded in, and just it slides right down the locking system. Now once it gets in place, now I can start putting in this other piece. Now this takes a little bit of time, a little bit of finesse, but you can see by having that joint in the middle of the door, this really makes this process a lot easier. Now in a little bit, I'm going to show you one more way that you can do this, because not all plank is thinner like this, where you can really get underneath it, flex it a little bit to get it into position, and then tap it into place. Now let's move to the other side of this door, and what I do is I hook on a scrap piece there, and then I just measure from wall to wall. I cut the plank to fit. I'm going to hook onto that scrap piece, and this is such a short area that we don't have to worry about snapping lines or getting that plank straight. It's pretty solid in there and straight as it is. And then you can see I just take my cheater board and I'm going to repeat the process of marking out the jambs on both sides of this door. We'll cut this plank and then we will slide it into place. Now not all plank is created equal. This is a little thinner plank, has a little bit more flex. Some plank is a little bit thicker, a little harder to work with, and there's another method after this that I'm going to share with you where you can modify the locking system and slide the plank in easily, no matter how thick or how stiff your plank is. So in this next part of the video, I want to share with you another method that you can use if you're struggling getting that plank together in the doorway, because you might have a thicker plank, something that's more durable, where the locking system, you can't just hit that together. You got to get the plank up at an angle more severely to be able to get it to lock together. Now there's a method that you can do to modify the locking system, the groove, which I'm going to show you right now, so that you don't have to lift up at an angle. You can just slide the plank together and it locks together. So let me show you that again. You just slide it together and you can see that joint is tight and it just pulls apart. And all you're going to do is modify this locking system, and we're going to put a little glue in it to get that to stay together. So here, let's watch. So what I'm doing here is I'm modifying the locking system, and I'm taking the lip of the groove off. And the reason why I do this is so that we don't have to lift the plank at an angle to get it together. When you can see the lip right here, is all I do is run the utility knife right down the edge of that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use some clear Gorilla Glue. And before we do that, we want to activate that clear Gorilla Glue with water. So I'm taking a terry cloth that I got wet, and I'm going to make sure that I get that on the groove and also on the tongue. So you want to make sure that you get that moist. And as all I did was dip that terry cloth right in water, I wrung it out just a little bit, so there's definitely some water on there. And then I'll just rub that terry cloth right down the locking system. Now again, that's what's going to activate the clear Gorilla Glue to make sure that this is going to hold for you. Now be sure that you run a nice good bead of the clear Gorilla Glue right down the joint like I'm showing. And now we're just going to slide this plank in here. Now you can see how the plank goes underneath the door jamb. There's no way I could lift that plank up right now to get it at an angle to get it locked in. And when you have a very big, long plank, especially a thick vinyl plank like this that's extremely durable, not very bendable, Well, it's going to take modifying the locking system to get that together. Now, once you're all done putting that plank together, take that rag with denatured alcohol again and clean that joint off really good. You don't want to leave any clear Gorilla Glue left on top of this plank. If it dries, it's going to be very difficult to get off if you get it off at all. Now I'm just going to continue on doing the same thing. You can see how easy this makes this to be able to put the plank in when you are in a doorway. Just modify that locking system. Now I can bend it a little bit to get that joint together. Not quite all the way. We'll finish that up in a little bit, but now let's put the long joint all together. So I use my plank hammer to get it started, and then we're going to finish it off using our pull bar. So we'll get that short joint together, and now we go down and get the long joint all together using that pull bar. Once we get that plank locked together, I make sure I wipe the joint off really good, and then we're going to apply some blue tape to hold those plank together, and we'll leave that blue tape on until the next day. So there's 3 tips that you can use while you're going through your doorways with your plank running parallel to them. Now you can see that these are really going to help you through your install, especially if you are not wanting to use transitions at the doorways, which I never do, okay? And that's why I teach it this way. Now, like I told you, there is another video that you can go watch where the plank is running perpendicular to the doorway. I'll make that so that at the very end of this video, it'll just go right to that one. I'll also put a link below. You're gonna wanna watch that one because you're probably gonna have both types of situations on your plank installation. And there's some other tips in that where you're installing the plank perpendicular that I use that are different than what you would use on the plank running parallel to the door. So check that out to get some more easy tips to get through those doorways. Now the tools that I was using inside this video are some tools that I've designed. This is called the plank hammer. It's really a good user-friendly tapping block. The handle on it especially is what makes it unique because you can hold it in different areas of the tapping block to be able to get some finesse with it when you're trying to use it. It really helps make your plank installation a lot easier to use a tapping block. So check this out, I'll leave a link below. I also shared with you a pull bar inside that video. Now this is one that I designed. It's called the Plank Puller. Now this is a really good, solid, heavy-duty pull bar. I also will leave a link so that you can check this out. Really a good design. The thing that I like the most about it is that it has a longer distance between the wall and where you need to hit on the knuckle here. So it gives you a lot more room to get in there with that dead blow hammer. Check this out and the other tools that I talked to you about. I'll leave links below for all of that. Now, I have lots of installation videos on my channel that you can come and check out. So if you're wondering where to even start or how to do layout, come and check out some videos that I'll leave links for below so that you can really get a good grasp of how to do a vinyl plank installation. Yes, everybody says how easy vinyl plank is, and it can be easy if you do some of the steps that I'm going to teach you inside these videos that I just shared with you. So go check those out. And I just want to say a prayer for you. Father God, I pray for everybody watching this video. I pray that you bless them and their families, Lord. Now I know that everybody's got stuff going on in their lives, and the last thing we need is stuff going on in our lives while we're trying to do a remodel, Lord. So I pray that you're with everybody who's watching and that you'd help them through this, Lord. Not just with the remodel, but also with things that are coming at them in life, Lord. It can be really busy and it can be very stressful. So I pray, Lord, that you bless everyone watching this video. I pray for that in Jesus' name. Again, my name is Joe Latender. I want to tell you thank you very much for watching my channel in this video. Check out my other videos. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that you can get notified of other videos that I have coming out. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button. It really means a lot to me. I appreciate you more than you know. And so with that, I'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.